Hi, Myquillyn. Thanks for being on my podcast today.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
Yes, it's so fun. We were just talking before we hit record how we met back in 2019. So it seems like forever ago. And you had this cute little barn that had we hosted a Hope Ride or they hosted a Hope Riders event there. And you had this little cozy house that you when you promoted your first book or your Cozy Minimalist book. And we got to see you and I got to take a picture with you. And it was just so fun. Do you remember that night at the Hope Riders retreat?
I do. And I always like when I see people, I can't, they're in two categories, people that have been to my house or people who haven't been to my house yet. And I always love it when it's people who have been to my house. So
I
yay.
love it. That is so fun. Yes, it was such a special night. You had like a fire pit and we all just got to talk and it was just such a great end to the retreat. So, you have a new book coming out called House Hushing, which first of all, I love the title and it says the simple method to declutter and decorate for a more peaceful home. So, I'd love for us to just start with you kind of explaining a little bit about what the purpose behind this book or what inspired you to write this book. I know you have many books. So, what's the House Hushing book about?
Well, I think about if everything in your home, especially the visible items, have a voice. You come home from work and your kitchen is saying, there's an Amazon box. And he's like, you need to recycle me, ma'am, and you need to break me down and take me to the garage. And then there's stuff on your countertop that says, you need to wash this produce. You need to put these bowls away. You need to rewash this pots and pans because they look crummy. And who do you think you are for displaying these and hanging these out? Your mother would be ashamed of you. And so, like all of these things, whether they're beautiful items that are saying, look at me, or dust me, or pay attention to me, maybe it's an unfinished project that's saying, excuse me, ma'am, you should really get back to crocheting, or, you should read this book, or maybe there's a stack of old magazines that say there are three great recipes in here. If you would just take the time to find them,
Mm.
you better do that. You have to save me forever until you find what you're looking for. And so a lot of our stuff has this voice, these things that we are choosing to allow in our life and surround us all in our home. And sometimes the voices are wonderful and kind, and sometimes they're kind of mean. But no matter what, each voice takes a bit of our attention. A lot of times when we move into a house, it's a quiet voice. But as we add things, as the seasons pass, as we have children and our family changes, people give us gifts, we decorate for Christmas, that voice grows from what maybe was a melody to a silent but deadly roar in our heads. And it really has a cost, especially for us women, where now when we come home, our house does not feel peaceful. It feels like another to do list, another place where maybe we haven't measured up.
That is so true. It's so funny when you're talking about, I have like scrapbooks that never got finished that are saying to me, why haven't you done this for your kids? You're a bad mom, like you
Yep.
didn't finish this. Or so it's so true. There's these things that are left, or sometimes they say nice things, but sometimes you feel guilty and so I love this idea of like decluttering, but to make it peaceful, not, I mean, obviously for beautiful decor as well, but also just does hush that sound that's can kind of weigh you down as a mom or as just a woman in general. So I love this. And one of the things you talked about in your book, which this was so good to me, it's called Clutter Threshold because I would call myself a maximalist and then my husband's a minimalist. Okay. So we recently got married. This is my second marriage. And it was kind of like a discussion of what's going to stay in the house because he moved into my house and what he would like to have all the walls bare. And I'm like, I love pictures on every wall. So we had to kind of have balance. And so I love this clutter threshold. And you talk about your mom and you have kind of a different clutter threshold as how much you can handle. Can you tell us more about this? And are you and your husband a similar clutter threshold? I'm
Oh,
just curious.
yeah. Well, Dana K. White, she is the author of, what is it? Decluttering at the Speed of Life. She is the one that came up with the idea of the clutter threshold. And I think it's brilliant. I almost want to call it the stuff threshold because I think if we call it clutter, we're like, well, I don't, my stuff isn't clutter. Maybe your stuff is clutter, but
Right.
mine is like wonderful. So I sometimes call it the stuff threshold, even. But yeah, when you go in my mom's house, first of all, she is like a clean freak. She is the cleanest, tidiest lady you'll ever meet. But her countertops, not every inch, like there's room to cook, but it's very styled. There are little baskets and like stacks of cookbooks and boards and the salt cellar and all these beautiful things. And on top of her cabinets, she's got it's really styled and branches and things like that. And she keeps it spick and span. Her house feels very peaceful. It does not bother her. It does not make her feel overwhelmed. In my own house, I cannot keep up with that. It would have like 10 inches of grody dust on it from, grease from the kitchen.
Yes.
I'm not good at like if I have a lot of stuff on my counters, it just adds more stuff in my grows somehow. So my clutter threshold or stuff and my mom's is very different. But my husband's and mine and my husband's I think is too. I think in different ways though. I think in long-term things, like he can live with a stack of books on the floor. Like I'm reading these books, they can live here for the next year. And I'm like, no, sir, we are not living our life with a stack of books on the floor. It's one thing if it's like 24 hours. Whereas I'm the kind of girl, if I'm in a hurry, I'll throw my laundry on the floor. He would never throw his laundry on the floor. He is way too good for that. So I am like this temporary messy, but ultimately I don't want things to live visually where they're like on the floor, on the counters all the time. Now, that does not mean my house is never messy. It is messy a lot, but I have learned I do better if I have less surfaces that are styled. And I'm a decorate, like my background, I'm a
Yes.
decorator girl. I'm not a declutter, I'm not organizing expert, but I came at this from someone who I moved into a bigger house from that house that you came to. We had more outside area than inside. I raised my three boys in this little farmhouse. And then we moved to town. We live in an old Victorian, and my boys moved out. We have a big
Mm.
old Victorian house with all this detail. And I didn't really know how to decorate it, how to make it feel peaceful when it's got like molding and bay windows and weird fireplaces. And I'm like, I bet I'm not the only one with this problem where sometimes even Jody, before we even moved in, this house felt loud. It had so much happening
Mm.
and like interest. And I'm like, I'm going to add my stuff in there and it's going to be like a clown fraternity. It's going to be chaos. And it was.
Wow. So what did you do then to quiet it? I would just love to know, like, how did you, because that sounds like that's a hard job.
Yeah.
Like, I'd love to.
Well, I'll tell you what helped. And I think this helps a lot. If you're stuck in your home, take a picture. Take a picture and like take a day and look at it the next day. And that is when I was like, oh, my dear Lord, I have too much stuff in here. But I
Yes.
also, this house has a lot of built ins. And here's the thing minimalists will say, oh, if you are feeling overwhelmed in your home, the number one answer to everything is you just got to get rid of stuff. Well, I think that's probably a really great advice, and we all probably have too much stuff. But sometimes we love our stuff, or like me, I had these built-ins that if I just leave them empty, it looks like we're moving out. I wanted to find a way to like
Right.
style things and get my personal style and not feel like the only control I had was like, I just got to get rid of more stuff. And so I had to experiment like, how can I have some things in here? And that's what I called quiet decorating. I was able to bring things in that didn't compete with everything else I had or whatever the house was saying, or if you have pattern or wallpaper in your home. So there's ways to quiet decorate that you can kind of control that visual volume. It works both ways. Maybe you won the lottery and you moved into a big mansion and you're like, I don't want to load this house down with stuff, but I don't want it to echo. I don't want it to feel empty. Well, you can use quiet decorating. You can turn up the coziness. You can add more pattern. You can add more texture. You can add more contrast. You can add things with scale. And all of a sudden, you're not adding multiple items, just the items you are adding are different because you're trying to control that visual volume. And that is such a great key. And no one ever talks about that. And so that's what I
Yes.
love about, maybe approaching a quiet home from a decorator perspective.
Which is kind of what called the cozy minimalist, right? So you kind of
Yeah.
combine the two because decorators want things to be cozy, minimalists want things to be decluttered. So you've kind of found a way to combine the two, which I think is really beautiful. So it's funny when you talk about the stuff threshold though. So I just love pictures. I just feel like memories. And so, if I can any wall like previously every wall had pictures. So what we did is we wanted to repaint the house to make it look like more our house. So everything had to come down, which maybe this was my husband's incentive all the time just to get it all off the walls. And so then we had to put it back different. But it's actually beautiful because now it's more ours. But he'd be like, this wall, nothing. I'm like, all right, we're going to have an empty wall in the house. Okay. It's like not what I do, but I know that's what you need. And then, okay, this wall, then I get to do. So we've kind of come to a compromise. But I do think that's such a good thing to point out that sometimes the threshold's different and compromise. But then also what feels for me peaceful is the pictures. I don't know why, but they just they probably do speak noise to some people. But for me, it's like it's so wonderful to see, especially now my kids have like, not haven't outgrown the house. They have launched, to college and so it's just that's something I love. But yes, I probably have more than the average woman with pictures in the house. So I do think I probably would be like a considered a maximalist still, even though I feel like I have decluttered lots.
Yeah,
But
there's nothing wrong with that. Like we said, everyone gets to decide where we are. So I love that you and your husband came up with this agreement. It makes me think about like a museum. Not that your house is like a museum at all, but
right.
they have the most important works of art known to mankind. And they intentionally have empty space so that those important things get the attention they deserve. So I would argue that I think you need both. I think the empty space
Mm.
allows the photos that you love to get that attention that they so rightfully deserve.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, it's funny because the other day I got some new frames and he's like, those aren't going on that wall, are they? I'm like, well, I thought I would. He goes, you said that wall would be blank. And so I'm like, all right. So I took them all down because it was getting to be too much. But that is my issue. But you have this thing called the silent to-do list. And again, it's kind of like what we talked about with this things speaking to us. So let me read this quote from your book. You said, the more responsibility you carry in a household, whether that's managing people, plans, plants, or pets, the more the visual noise tends to speak directly to you. Not in a kind tone either. It's usually running a list of all the things you've haven't gotten around to yet. You might even call it a guilt or shame. Just this low hum of you're never enough, which I do sometimes feel that, like as I look at projects or books, like I wanted to read that this summer and I didn't get to it. So again, how can house hushing quiet this visual noise? I know you talked, can you give me some practical ways? I know there's like 4 steps that you do
Yeah.
to, yeah, how can we
I
do
would
that?
love to. Well, let's say your family room is starting to feel a little bit bossy to you. So you're going to say, I am going to hush my family room. And we're going to talk about backwards decluttering. Okay. So it's a different
Yes, I
way.
love this. I
I
love this
love this
backwards declutter.
too. This
When I
really
saw it in your book, I was like, backwards decluttering. This is the best thing I've ever heard of. Okay, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh no, please interrupt. I think this works especially well for ladies like me and probably like you who we love our stuff. We love our beautiful things. We love our meaningful things, but we can't find the scissors. Or we aren't having people over because our house is feeling a little overwhelmed, or we know we need to declutter, but it feels like it's going to put to risk all the work that we've done. Like, well, I know I need to declutter, but I've worked so hard to create this cozy, beautiful, welcoming home. Now I'm afraid that I'm going to give something away and regret it. And so backwards decluttering, it's another method. If you've tried different methods, maybe this one will help you. And so what you do, it's like a 48-hour experiment. So you're going to pick a room you're going to
Mm,
backwards declutter. Let's say that's your family room. Then you're going to pick another space in your house that you can't see from the room that you're decluttering. And you're going to be able to stash it and kind of mess that room up. So you're going to have two rooms in limbo for 48 hours. In my house, I use the dining room table a lot. I have used our covered porch. I've used the trunk of the car. You can put bins outside, whatever. You just want to get them out of sight. And so I'm going to backwards declutter my family room. What that means is I'm going to just take everything off the surfaces, everything visually. I'm not opening doors. I'm not opening storage. Just everything visual that's small, that's out, I'm going to take into my holding area. So I'm going to walk through maybe with a basket or a bag or something. I'm grabbing the clocks. I'm grabbing the pens. I'm grabbing the computers. I'm grabbing all of the plants. I'm leaving the artwork on the walls, but anything on a surface, anything on the mantle, unless it's a TV on the wall, it's coming off. I usually leave the lamps. I leave the sofa. I leave the chair. I leave the rug. I leave the drapes. But all of this stuff on the surfaces, all of the things, my crochet on the floor, the puzzle, the kids' homework, the cat bed, the toys, the diaper basket, we're just taking that all temporarily. We're not making any decisions. And you tell your family, I'm going to do an experiment. Everything's in there if you need it. And it's not like an experiment of suffering. If you are sitting in that room at night and you're like, I need a lamp, if you took a lamp out, get the lamp. But all the candles, all the decor, we're just getting it out of the way
right.
for just a little bit. And I will say, I am decor's number one fan. So you can trust me because I'm not saying your decor is bad, but this is a way for us. It's like eating dessert for dinner. We are going to get to experience a quieter room because we're going
Mm.
to empty that room out of that top layer of visual noise. And then we walk back in, and at first it's going to feel real weird. It's going to just
Yeah,
like,
I
what is this
bet.
lady talking about? But a few minutes, a few hours. I want you to spend time in that room. I want you to get your book and read in there or watch TV. I want you to eat dinner in there. Let your family be in there. Let them know. Let's talk about how this feels. The dog's going to love it. He's going to wallow on the floor. The kids are going to want to do their homework in there. Oh, this room feels so big. It's going to feel big to you. And what happens is it's going to go from feeling weird to like, you're going to want to exhale. It feels kind of good. You're like, oh,
Wow.
this room feels like it felt when we moved in. I remember how big it is and how the sun shines through you might even want to like take a few things off of the wall. But what will happen in that next day or two as you're living in that room is you're starting to enjoy the simplicity. Things are not yelling at you. Things are not stealing your attention. And that's going to feel really good 100% of the time. I have done this with thousands of women, and it always feels good. When you get to the point that you start to feel protective of that piece, that is when it's time for you to say, what is missing? What do I need to bring back in? Oh, my husband's bowling
Mm.
trophy. He loves that. We're going to bring that back in and put that on the shelf. Or the plant is going to die if I don't put it in the window. We're going to bring that. I love my cozy, the cat misses his bed, whatever. You can bring a few things back in, but you stand in the room you hushed or that you backwards decluttered and you say what's missing. You don't go look at your pile of stuff and say, well, where can I put this? Where can I put? No. And so it is such a great way to convince yourself that you can still have your cozy, wonderful home, but maybe right now the peace outshines the value of 10,000 tiny things that you had sitting out. Maybe you'll find, maybe you're like, instead of an open bookshelf, I'm going to get, a piece of furniture that has drawers because I do want to keep our family's games in there. But maybe every night I don't want to read Monopoly, Scrabble, sorry, like even just
Yes,
words
yes.
can sometimes get our attention. So your solution might just be get a basket or put it behind closed doors. Ways, and that is in the next part of the book of like talking about quiet decorating, like doesn't mean we necessarily have to get rid of everything, but we might store it or display it in a way that doesn't cost us our peace. And that is what it's all
Mm.
about. So backwards decluttering is the no risk, the easiest, the babyest step way. It'll take you like 12 minutes and you get to experience your room like you haven't experienced it before.
I love that. Okay, so I would love to hear what you have to say for someone that's just moving into a home and there's right, it's just nothing at this point, right? So I love that because once you have a home and so this is how you kind of backwards declutter, get it all out, and then start again fresh. But if you're just starting, like for example, my son, he's getting married, and so they're just got their first place, they're getting it ready for when they come back from the honeymoon, and they're having the most fun going to find little pieces. So what would you say to maybe someone that they're starting out that's, uh,
Yeah.
the house is pretty much empty and they're slowly adding pieces?
So their problem is a decorating problem, not a decluttering problem. And
Yes.
they should read or join my private community, Cozy Minimalist or Cozy Minimalist Home, because they're making decorating decisions. And you want to make your decorating decisions in the right order. There is an order to decor. There's a hierarchy and it goes along with your budget. You want to work at one room at a time if possible, because you really want to focus. You want to, get your Pinterest boards in order. Think about how many people are using the room and for what purposes. And a lot of times we'll make like a little dream Pinterest board, but there is an order. First, you're going to get your seating, your surfaces, and your storage. And it doesn't
Mm,
mean you're going to buy all new stuff. Maybe your mom gave you a sofa and you're going to keep it for 5 years. Great. But do you have enough seating, surfaces, and storage? I don't want you to go buy pillows or paint your walls if you don't have a sofa. And so that hierarchy allows you to put your limited resources, if that's budget, if it's time, whatever, into things that are the most functional and that are usually the most expensive first. Because it's really
yes.
hard to be in a living room without seating surfaces and storage.
Right.
So
You,
then
you
from
need a
there, we're
couch.
like, you need a couch. So from there, you're going to do what I call the homey trinity. That's your rugs, your drapes, and your lighting. I used to
Oh, I
miss this
love that.
part all the time. When you don't have the right size rug, when you don't have drapes on the wall, and when you don't have lighting, functionally, your room can work, but not as well. And a lot of times we skip this step because, well, I have carpet. I don't want to buy a big rug. It just feels like a waste of money. But then the room doesn't feel cozy. We're not adding texture or extra color. And we make up for that. We feel like, oh, it's missing something. So we go to Home Goods and we buy a lot of little things to put on the surfaces. And this is how our surfaces become full. So we're working out of the order of decor. Get that rug,
Mm,
get window treatments. Maybe you need privacy. Maybe you just need coziness, window, treatments on the wall that are not, they're just decorative, but it will add your personal style if you get a pattern or a color. If you just want them the same color of your wall. In my office here, I have white walls. I have like really off-white, kind of warm beige drapes. They're just like this quiet hush. If I didn't have them, I would be really tempted to put a lot more stuff on my walls, but they just read as like a hug. They're just kind of
Mm,
quietly, cozily there. So it's kind of like a simple or a cozy minimalist best friend to make sure you have your rug and your drapes. And then lighting, we've all seen those memes, the double, the overhead light. We don't want to rely on the overhead light alone. We
yes.
want we want lamps. We want reading lights. We want little pockets of like little, I want to go over there and hang out and I'm going to read or I'm going to, knit or whatever it is. And so getting those lamps in place, when you get those in place, then that's when you get to the wall art and you're like, oh, I have these empty spaces where your furniture is, where the surfaces are, where your lamps go. Now you've created these natural places where you're like, I need a piece of art right there. I need a mirror right there because you have all this other stuff first instead of moving in and first putting the TV where the previous owners had it. Well, now they're the boss of everything else. What if you have a
Mm,
sectional and they didn't? Like, no, you want your stuff to be in the best possible place. So, Cozy Minimalist Home is the book for them, or joining my private cozy community is like $18 a month, or I don't know, $100 a year. I'd love to have them in there. And it's like so much fun. We're all in there showing how we're working through our
I
room. But
love
the
that.
goal is to get the most amount of style with the least amount of stuff.
Ooh, the most amount of style with the least amount of stuff. I love it. Okay, so sorry, I took a little detour from the house
No,
hustle,
I
so I
don't care
apologize.
about it's all I
Um,
want to talk about home. I don't care what we talk about.
I love it. Okay, so let's go back. So there's four steps. So backwards decluttering, step one, and
Yep.
then quieting the house is step two. I know you mentioned a little bit. Tell us more
Yeah,
about that
quiet
one.
decorating is step two.
Oh,
And so,
quiet decorating. I'm
yep,
sorry.
that's like 10 ways that we can turn up the cozy volume, and other ways that we can, or 10 ways that we can quiet, and then 10 ways we can turn up the cozy or turn down the cozy. In my community group, sometimes we have women that live in big houses. Sometimes we have ladies that live in a tiny house. And so maybe they've decluttered all they can. And they're like, this room still feels like it's shouting at me. And so then she shows a picture. She's got a plaid sofa. She's got every wall is a different color in the tiny house. And you're like, oh, well, no wonder. Every color is asking for your attention. So the way that you use color, the way you use contrast, the way you use scale, texture, there's like 10 main things. There are more than that that we can use to control that volume of quieting or maybe turning up the volume of our of the things in our home. So that is number two, the second way. The third way that we as we're hushing our house, I want you to consider is the soulful styling, which I think this is the chapter for you, ma'am, because I
Okay, let's
know
hear it.
how much you love your family and how much you love seeing the photos. And I would agree with you. I want you to have the photos that you love. But if we take it to extreme, if every photo is special, then no photo is special. If every photo is framed and put on your wall, then no photo gets the attention it deserves. I want you to have all your photos. I want you to print out your photos, but maybe you pick the 30 favorite photos. So someone who comes over to your house cannot enjoy 89 photos, and probably you can't either. So put them in a gorgeous leather photo album, or get a
Yes.
chapbook made and have it open every day. You open it to a new page, like the family Bible. But on your walls, get gorgeous frames, get big matting, get them printed out, your top 20 photos, and maybe you change those out so that they get the attention they deserve. You and your husband both are like good with it, but it doesn't mean, because I think here's what happens. People will say, well, I want my house to be simple, but I love my stuff. And not you at all, but people have said to me kind of like, well, I
Yes.
love beautiful things, or I love my family. Like, well, yes, but for some of us, and I think your stuff threshold is much higher than mine, and so you're fine. It's a personal thing. But
Yes.
then what that makes you feel like is like, oh, I guess I don't love my family if my stuff threshold is lower. No, your husband loves his family as well. He just doesn't want to look at like 59 photos of them
Yes.
at
Yes.
all times.
All
He
the
wants
time.
to choose and look at the book of the photos, which is another way to do it. And so just thinking about how can we still honor those things that are meaningful to us, but maybe not have to visually categorize them as we're watching TV and we have 30 photos of people staring back at us. So things like having a curio cabinet, having a cabinet with doors, glass doors, so you can put 1,000 things, 1,000 tiny things. And my husband has, we have it in our family room. But there's something about when those doors are closed, it first of all, it elevates that stuff. This is our special collection. And then we can
Right.
open it and enjoy it. It protects it from, dust and little kids and things like that. And so thinking of, I have all kinds of ideas to honor the past, the present, and future, honor the soulful things you love, because I don't want them packed away in a box. I think the
Mm,
things you love should be on display. But I also don't want, that doesn't mean like everything that's ever come through your life should be like Cracker Barrel hanging from the ceiling. So it's that give
yes.
and take. What's your threshold? What is special to you? How can we find a great way to set this out so you can enjoy it?
Yeah, I like that. And I love how you talk about past, present, and future. So you kind of have something from each section. So something from the past, something on to the present, and then what's the future. So that's really good, the soulful styling. And I do think I have really toned it down a lot compared to what I used to have. And we're finding our balance. But then I go find frames I love and then I try to switch them out. Like we just got back
I
from a
love
trip. So
that.
I'm printing those pictures and I'm going to go around and switch them to the new ones. And then
Oh,
I
I
actually
love
got
that.
my mom one of those frames where the picture changes, have you seen those digital ones? And
Yes.
so she's in a memory care unit. So it's a great way for us to talk about memories. And so she needs to see the pictures to remember because her memory is sadly with her dementia. So I though was thinking, well, maybe I get one of those and just those are the
Yeah,
trips, the recent trip. And then so
that's
we talked about
excellent.
that too. So it's a way to like, this is just the one frame, but then they're showing more than one thing.
Brilliant. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So you try to figure out ways that
Love
make
that.
everyone work. But the last section is the fourth step is living seasonally. And it's funny when I first read this, I'm thinking like the seasons, like we're going to have the fall decor in the winter, but this is not what you meant. So let me read the quote. Living seasonally is a way to welcome beauty and rhythm into your home based on your current season, not the store's calendar. So it's not necessarily the fall season, that it's basically the season of life you're in. So you talk about four steps, and I just want to highlight two of them. The second one is the joy check-in step. And I think this is really important because when we got remarried, my kids were also starting to like grow up to like start their own traditions. And so we had to kind of rethink like Christmas and traditions and what's going to bring the most joy. And we had some traditions we did with neighbors and different people that was like, you know what? Maybe that's not the thing to do now in this new season of life we're in, where, there's going to be a daughter-in-law, coming in, just different, or the kids now are going to have their own friends and stuff. It's not just like the same thing we did for the last 10 years. And so we had to really think about how are we going to accommodate what do we really want? What are we trying to do now in this new season? And for me, I was like, it's all about the kids and their new little family units and making sure that's the number one priority, not having all these other people coming, even though we love all the neighbors, like that's not the prime. So we had to kind of step back and change some of our traditions. Now that was more tradition wise, maybe not in the home, but just still like how we did the season. So I'd love to hear the joy step and then the plan step. Like, how do you want to plan for the next season? Like, do we want it to be less scheduled, more rest, more activity? So tell me about these living seasonal section. I loved it.
Yeah. It's a combination of both, and I'm so glad you said it that way. And first of all, you're so far ahead of most people. Like you're doing it
Thank you.
exactly right. Of like, okay, this is no longer about what me and my husband want for our kids. This is what our kids need from us as they are growing their family and tending to that. So you don't even need this section. But yes, the joy check-in is, it's our own season paired with the calendar season, because I do think that's a good time to kind of check in and check back. So you and I are talking, it's August. We can think back, okay, this past summer, what brought joy? Like what worked? What was the most joyful things we experienced? For our family, we've done this for a few years. We do like a 4th of July little hike to Upper Creek Falls. We take lunch. There's like a natural pool. It's freezing. And we're always like, this year it's going to be so hot. It's hot outside. It's always frigid. But it's like this thing that we do. And like every year we're like, oh, did we like it? Yes. Okay. We'll write that down. We're going to do it again next year. Sometimes we used to go see fireworks. And after a couple, there's a line to leave and they weren't that good and there's no place to sit. And after a couple of years, we're like, I don't think we want to do that anymore. Like you kind of just check in with what is and isn't working. You never do something because it's tradition. That's the worst reason to do something. You always are
Right.
evaluating. And so what brought everyone joy? It's a great way to think back to the previous like summer season. And then as you think ahead, you can plan and you can say, okay, we're coming into the fall. What is my actual like season of life? Am I having kids go to college? Am I having parents move in with me? Am I having a baby? Are we moving? Am I starting a
Mm.
new thing at a job? Are we visiting churches? Like, what is it that we're doing that's really going to affect my everyday life? Are we hosting a lot? Maybe it's like a really, oh, there's nothing on my calendar. And so you pair that and then you think about, the season itself. Like, what do I usually do in the fall? What do I do to enjoy fall? Maybe we usually go apple picking, or usually we carve pumpkins with the neighborhood, or we have a chili cook-off. And you just decide, you kind of pre-decide, like, I know I've done this in the future, in the past, knowing what is actually coming up in my life. Is this still going to serve me and my family? And so it's just kind of
Mm.
a gentle way to say, well, we're moving and we're changing churches and I have three new jobs. I probably am not going to host the chili cook-off this time. And so you can kind of go ahead and give everyone a heads up and not feel guilty about it because
Yes.
you're protecting the peace. And that's all there is to it.
I love that. Protecting the peace. That's the goal. Because I do think sometimes we feel like, oh, I don't want to let this person down. We've been doing this with them for years. This is like the family tradition. They loved it. They loved it. We all loved it. But that was a different season of life where the kids were all in elementary school together and then middle school. We're now, they've all gone off to, it's just like, so it was really hard. Like I remember one friend saying, you just have to do what's best for your family, even if there's someone disappointed. And it's very hard for me. I think that's maybe just the people pleaser in me, but and I like tradition. I don't really always want to change it either, but I also think if we kept trying to do that, there would be less peace and joy. It would just be doing it because we've done doing it for that because we've done it year after year, not what's best for the new season. So this part was one of my favorites because and especially for those that struggle with change. Like I think there's some that can bounce easier through. No, I'm not going to do that anymore. But for somebody, it's like, oh, we've done that for this many years. But is that still the best for the kids? And coming from a divorced home, I've told my kids, the holidays, especially, like I don't care what day you come. It doesn't have to be Christmas Day, Christmas Eve. We will celebrate Christmas on the day you could come. I will give you that gift of you and your new wife to be, because that was a thing I always felt bad about when I was first married in my first marriage, that, we couldn't be at both homes and who are we going to disappoint? So I'm like, I will never put that expectation on you. So I've also let go of like, it doesn't have to be the day. It could be just what's going to bring the most peace and joy where everyone's going to, and so that means then we can serve on like at our church on those holidays where everyone's busy with family, we can serve Christmas Eve. Well, then great. So that's kind of been another thing. So I think that's important that it's a yearly evaluation. So you call it like a seasonal experience list where you ask all these questions, and you have some great questions for people to ponder in that section that I thought really, really important. Because again, the whole goal is peace in the house, not, staying, keeping up with all the family, keeping up with the neighbors and all that. Like if that's not going to bring peace anymore. So I
And
really
I
love
love
that.
what you just said about, you hate disappointing people, but then you said, it's okay if my kids, I just want to see them. So if it's not Christmas Day, that opens us up to serve at the church. And I think we forget, first of all, people love cancel plans. If you or have always done this, it opens them up to maybe do something
Yes.
different. And so that could be a gift to everyone. Don't feel like it's only letting people down. Maybe you're making someone happy by maybe
Yes.
extroverts in your life are like, yay, I get the day off, or yay, I'm gonna now try this thing in town. I'm gonna go to the parade that we've never gotten to go. So you never know what could happen out of that.
That's true. That's true. It could open up something that they start as a new family tradition. Yeah, we used to do that chocolate fountain. Have you ever seen those where you do like the fondue and so we did this big Christmas Eve, like, and so I got them their own fountain because I always host it. And so I'm like, now you guys can do your own. So she did end up doing it with just her kids and it being really special. And it was just, it's just, we loved having that time, but just it's a different season now. So I think it's important to do that. So here's the thing. The goal is soulful simplicity. I love this part of the book. These are the two goals, soulful simplicity. And you kind of pair the two together. So simplicity is just uncomplicated. Like let's make things uncomplicated. And then soul is like making your house feel like a home. So tell me in your best, how could we practically soulful simplicity? I know that was kind of the goal. Like Cozy Minimalist was kind of still your something you love, but this is kind of the goal of this book is soulful simplicity. Is that correct? Would you say that's right?
Yeah, girl, you got it perfectly. So I think it's easier to think about the extreme of like, well, what's not soulful simplicity? What's just simplicity without the soul? Because I think that we all know what simple is. And I think about a model home. When you go in a model
Oh,
home,
yes.
it does not feel soulful. It feels awesome. It feels big and new. It can feel impressive, but there is no soul there. No family has lived there. There's nothing in the closets. There's no touch of humanity. There's no imperfection. There's no
Mm,
past, present, and future. There's no life. And so when we think about wanting a soulful home, it is adding our personal touch. It's adding those imperfections. It's having a sofa that has, some kid's name, Alex, written with his fingernail in the side of the leather. It's having the trip to Italy that you're saving for taped up on the mirror and, a little
mm.
basket of maps and things. So all of those things that make a house our own home that someone could walk in, even if we're on vacation, and walk through our homes and say, someone plays the trumpet, someone likes to cook French food, someone, they can tell by what we have in our home. And so I want a simple home, but I want it to feel like me. And just like I think we can have a cozy home that also has the least amount of stuff, I believe we can have a simple home and not have to sacrifice the things that are important to me, the things that are important to you.
I love that. So good. All right, you guys, this book is so great. You got to get it. But since books are such a big part of my life, as you can see, all the books behind me, I love to end. My last question I always end the podcast with are what books have made an impact on you? Besides the Bible, what would be your most impactful books? I know it's a hard question, but if you had a couple you wanted to share.
No, oh no. Okay, well, right off, Greg McKeown, Essentialism. That book,
Mm,
I wrote Cozy Minimalist Home after I read that. I was like, I want essentialism for the home. What is essentialism for the home? And of course, I think everyone in business should read that. I think everyone in life should read that. It's an excellent book.
good.
That
That's
was
a great
probably
one.
that's my number one.
I love that. Okay, I'm going to look that one up. I don't think I've read that, but I have heard of someone recommending that before. So I'm going to check that one out. It's a couple years old, right? It's been out
It's
a little
probably
bit.
5 years
Yes.
old. Yeah, because now he
Okay,
has another
perfect.
one called Effortless, but Essentialism is my favorite. Effortless is
Okay.
actually excellent as well.
Okay, both are great. Okay, wonderful. Well, you know what? This has been so fun. I can see you love talking about this. You can see the passion and come out of you. And your book is, first of all, I don't, it hasn't actually arrived, so I can't hold it up, but I will have when this goes out, hopefully we'll be here. Oh, you hold it up. You have one. There it is. I love it. Okay, first of all, you guys, it's beautiful. And then inside is all the great ideas, but then there's pictures to kind
Yeah.
of help you. Oh gosh, it is so great. I can't wait. Mine's they say it's en route. So, and we're going to be giving a copy away on the podcast as well. So I'll put a link to that, but it's just going to be so fun. And I love the idea of trying to have it be less noise for us to really enjoy, come home and feel like there's not a to-do list. There's peace in the home. So it's such great ideas. So thank you for coming on and sharing about your new book that's coming out. And do you have any pre-order? Because this is going to come out the week before it releases. Do you have any
Oh,
pre-order incentives you want to
perfect.
share about real
I
quick?
sure do. Listen, if you pre-order the book from anywhere, any version of the book from any country, I don't care. You just go to my website, thenester.com. At the top, it's going to say like tap here if you to pre-order or if you've pre-ordered. We're giving away, I did a class called the 30-minute style solution. If you're like, I feel like I'm out of touch with my style. I can't find my personal style. I can help you with that in 30 minutes. So I teach it. It's just like this. I'm looking
Oh,
at the camera. I have slides, photos. I have two sets of 15 questions to ask that's going to make you think back in your life in different things, look around your house, and you're going to come out with like a list of words that describe your style. And it's going to make shopping, it's going to make editing, decluttering, everything, even secondhand shopping easier because secondhand shopping is some of the hardest if you go to an antique mall or thrift store because they're never going to have it again. There's no back stock. You have to
right.
decide
Yes.
in the moment, am I getting this or not? And I want to help women with that because I think secondhand shopping is so, it's the way to add soul to your home. So we've got that for you. Also, we have the free audiobook. So please, 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 if you
Mm.
think you might get house hushing, get it before August 25th and you can claim your pre-order bonus and you'll get the class and you'll get the audiobook for free as
I
a thank
love
you.
that. Yeah, those are great pre-order gifts. Oh, I'm so excited for the listeners. So you guys, thank you so much for coming on today. And It's just going to be a joy to have just think of people's homes, being able to come in and just the piece that you're going to help them create. So it's going to be lovely. Thank you so much. It's been fun to have you on.
Thanks, Jody.